All right, we're here. We're live.
I don't even know what day it is anymore. I'm so baffled. What's today? Friday?
It is Friday, and therefore, from now on, it's unless a Baldwin bombshell drops or something else, every Friday will be Freeform Friday. Might be just you and me. It might be you, me, and Viva, you, me, and Barnes. The first Friday of the month is going to typically be Barnes. Might even be like Nate Brody might sneak in sometime. Who knows? But Fridays are just kind of a fun day, catch up, talk to the crowd, and see what's going on for the week, etc. And it gives you a little bit more time to do some research. I think Tuesday is going to be Garfield, right?
Garfield Assassination Day on Tuesday, folks, for you people who love presidential assassinations. This one never gets any coverage, and there's a lot of material. A lot of weird stuff happened with Garfield in 1881.
Excellent. And we're also going to pimp the merch while we're on it. It's a casual day. So, you know, Mark's got the cap. He's chilling out. This is exactly how I saw Mark in Dallas the whole time.
Well, that is true. I mean, once you're on the road, you got to sell the merch. But it was easy for people to find me in the conference who were interested in America's Untold Stories. So it's kind of why I did it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, last little bit of promotion. Everybody, we are getting comments more and more and more, and I'm sure you've heard this from every YouTube channel. It gets tiresome to talk about, but please, if you will, right now, look and see if you're subscribed.
Oh, yeah, because they unsubscribe. That's what I was talking to Eric about.
Yeah, and it's frustrating to talk to Mark about because it's like, Mark,
an idiot. It's like talking to an idiot.
Well,
just say it, Hunley.
How do I explain?
How do I explain this to an idiot?
How do I explain that this is YouTube and they're capricious as hell, and it just happens, and it's so opaque? He's like, "Well, who do you call?"
Right.
I don't know.
Eric was just trying to explain it to me, and I said possibly they have an algorithm where if you don't go to the channel by X amount of time, they unsubscribe you, which may make some sense. Like if you don't go,
I have heard that.
Is that possible, Eric? I mean,
I have heard that because
out of my ass. I don't know.
It is a weird phenomenon, but technically, if somebody is subscribed to the channel but they never watch any videos, they're actually causing you more harm than good.
Right.
People don't realize it, but really, everybody just please check. Make sure you're subscribed.
Well, what about the notifications? How does that work? That's a separate algorithm.
Unfortunately, you put on the bell and ask to be notified. Sometimes it works.
Okay.
But you know what will work? Follow me on Twitter, put notifications on there, and I will announce the show a couple hours ahead. And within a half an hour of going live, I'm always announcing there too to hopefully make up for it. Obviously, I put up a link on Locals, unstructured.locals.com. I am pushing Twitter a bit more now because while it's not perfect, there's a big name out there that Musk is not letting on at this point. Hopefully he does with the amnesty. I still see major improvement, and I love watching people screaming and crying and all the blue checks.
In my house, if you want to see screaming and crying, I mean,
well, there is that. So consider following us both. You can follow me for general stuff and Mark for all kinds of craziness. God only knows what he's going to spit out. But
I use Twitter just to post bizarre, unusual articles that I dig out of the trenches. I really don't get into arguments with people. And
no, he just blocks.
Yeah, no.
It's not why I'm doing it.
It's not even political. I'm just trying to put stuff up there that people can enjoy and read and make the wheels turn a little bit. I'm not into debating people. I don't need the aggravation. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, well, Mark is kind of like, I envision him being like Scott Adams. I sit there watching Scott Adams going, "Oh, block you." Just like cheerful, block.
No. I mean, there are trolls who come on there. I guess you explained this to me. There's people who, there was somebody who was a left-wing Canadian maniac who was trolling me. So at first I go, what is this? Because I don't catch on that quickly. And he was just like saying, because I worked for the Weekly World News at one point, a comedy newspaper, everything I say politically is irrelevant. And I'm going like, is this guy on our side? It takes you a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going like, all right, you got to get blocked. See you later, you fascist. Bye-bye. But it takes me a minute. I'm not as quick as Hunley on these things, So it takes me a while to figure it out.
I
Hunley blocks no one. He's the Nick Rekieta of.
That's actually not true. I do block. Here's the only people I block: those who block me.
Ooh, those who block me get blocked by Hunley.
No, and the reason is because if somebody blocks you, and then they can talk trash about you all day. If you don't have them blocked, then they can just be sending garbage. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to block anybody, but if you do block me, then fine.
Okay.
Well, I'll block you. Okay. And occasionally I see people, it's like, oh, look at that. Never even talk to the person I'm blocked. Okay, block. Right. But that's it.
Again, I did want to clear up some leftover stuff from last week's episode on Mac Wallace, which I left out at the very end. A little thing, but I told Eric at the end, I forgot to put it in there. There was a guy, Mac Wallace was the star quarterback of Woodrow Wilson High School. He was a big deal, good-looking guy, almost 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. But he had a guard, a guard meaning offensive guard on his line, who blocked for him, who was also a great blocking guard on that team. That guy and his brother, that guy became a strategic air command pilot. And his name was Ralph Gebb. And afterwards, he became Air Force Intelligence. His brother was named Frederick Gebb, who became, also through the United States Air Force Intelligence, became CIA. Ralph Gebb became Air Force Intelligence and then worked as a loan out for the CIA. Okay. There's a lot of that going on in the Mac Wallace universe. As I said, Mac Wallace was O&I. There's a lot of defense contracting there, and they were cherry picking cats out of these schools in the 50s and 60s and going back to the 40s, apparently. So the guy that I'm talking about, this guy, Ralph Gebb, was identified years and years later by another student who was on the football team, who saw a photo of him and said, this mysterious photo, he identified the mysterious photo as Ralph Gebb, a guy he went to high school with, who Mac Wallace went to high school with, who was the guard on the football team. So not an obscure guy, Eric. I mean, if you were the star of the football team, these guys on the team were pretty well known to the rest of the people in the high school.
Sure.
But this guy, Richard Gebb, and his brother, Ralph Gebb and his brother, Frederick Gebb, I don't know what happened to Frederick Gebb, but Ralph Gebb became a pretty prominent guy flying strategic air command nuclear bombers. I mean, that's a pretty good operation from high school with Mac Wallace. And then, of course, becomes an intelligence operative. So I just wanted to show this photo at the end of the show, which Eric is now going to put up, and I'm going to explain this photo. This is Ralph N. Gebb. This is the guy who was an offensive lineman for Mac Wallace when Mac Wallace was quarterback at Woodrow Wilson High School in Texas. So these photo, the same guy, two photos came from different cameras, and these were taken outside of the Cuban embassy in Mexico City in September of 1963 and sent up the line to J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, but also released later. This is who David Atlee Phillips, the head of the Western Hemisphere CIA branch based in Mexico City, claimed, oddly enough, was Lee Harvey Oswald. This is in the congressional records. This is what was sent to J. Edgar Hoover. This is the conversation that was deleted that we still have the transcripts of LBJ being told by J. Edgar Hoover that the photos he received and the audio he received from the CIA out of Mexico City was fraudulent, that they had a phony Oswald. This, my friends, at home on Black Friday is that phony Oswald. And he's been identified as Ralph N. Gebb. Air Force intelligence who went to high school, oddly enough, with Malcolm Wallace. So we now connect.
No, this is the Malcolm Wallace who had a fingerprint on a box inside
Fingerprint
of
on a box up in the school book depository building owned by D.H. Byrd, best friends with LBJ. The odds of this guy being connected to now, and I asked Eugenio about this, and Eugenio simply said, and you'll see that when you subscribe to Locals and you see the interview I did with the long form interview I did with Eugenio, this has been merely sloughed off as a Soviet agent, Soviet member of the embassy, of the Soviet embassy, as a bureaucrat or an agent. And that's what Eugenio said. He had no identification as to who this was. He just merely said, which many have, most people do. They just go, it's probably some Russian guy who works in the embassy. However, our sources, my sources out of Austin, have indicated that this is a guy they went to high school with, Ralph N. Gebb. And that would be hard to mistake. If you grew up with this guy, look at that face, Eric. I mean, look at the body. This guy is the body of a football player and an offensive lineman, for that matter. So I forgot to put this in at the end of the show, which is why I wanted to button it up today and just let you guys know that this is also part of the Malcolm Wallace episode. It's kind of inexplicable how this could be covered up for so long, but nevertheless, these are the photos they sent to DC, and this is from September 28th of 1963, claiming this is Lee Harvey Oswald. So, I mean, not after the assassination. I have to emphasize this. This is them claiming Oswald was in Mexico City, which I highly dispute, as do others. I don't know what Eugenio's take, if you remember, he was kind of on the fence about it, right, Eric?
Yeah.
During that interview, I don't think he put his foot down one way or the other, but he
not really.
talked about the Lopez report. And I think he agreed with me that Oswald was not in Mexico City because he knew all the places that Oswald was at, which I mentioned in that interview, that exclusive interview with Eugenio. He was at the unemployment office. He went to the DMV, and he was trying to meet with John Connolly to get his military record not expunged, but changed to honorable discharge in Austin at the time that they claim he was in Mexico City. And they had FBI documents, FBI statements from the people at unemployment and the DMV and in Connolly's office that Oswald was trying to do with these things as described during that period when he was supposed to be in Mexico City. I believe Mexico City was a complete farce, that this was part of the frame of having him trying to get a visa to go to Havana and thereby blaming Castro for the assassination. They pulled the plug on that afterwards. But that guy was the guy they claimed was Lee Harvey Oswald. And that's why I just wanted to get that in there.
Awesome. One more note, and I saw we had a $2 Rumble rant coming in from, what was it, Fleet Lord Atvar.
I'm telling you, they have crazy names over there on Rumble, Eric.
They do. Actually, no, sorry. 2 Rumble rants from Fleet Lord Atvar. Good. Wait, no Barnes. Again, Barnes is first Monday of the month.
Friday.
First Friday of the month.
Right.
And then, Mark, is there another non-fascist way to give you money for your books other than PayPal or Venmo / the same company, maybe Subscribestar?
You could send it to Hunley in a check, I guess.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I've actually passed a money order to Mark in person when I was in Texas. Somebody had sent in.
Yeah, we're doing that more and more now. That's happening a lot.
I don't blame him. By the way, on Rumble, folks, we're at 4,900 subs. Woo! So about another 100.
Woo!
We're at 5,000. Don't know what it means, but it might be nice. So if you guys haven't, subscribed to us over there, there's a link in the description.
Tape? Where's the ticket tape? Because I have the Yiddish word of the day.
And Yiddish word of the day.
You have the ticket tape for unstructured. I like to say it when you're running. Okay, that makes me feel better. The Yiddish word of the day is kreplach. Kreplach. And you say, well, what could that be? Kreplach is Yiddish ravioli without the sauce. And I'm saying that for the holiday season, and people at home know what I'm talking about in certain neighborhoods. But kreplach is like ravioli, but it's without the sauce.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that out.
I can say it. Creplock.
While the scroll was going by. Creplock.
Creplock.
Those are the food theme. But
go to unstructured.locals.com and think about Creplock.
I'm going to put a picture up of some Creplock on there so you'll see what it looks like.
I think you should, because I have no idea what the hell that is.
I know you didn't. That's why I put that in. That's Eric's grill stream on Saturday is going to be Creplock.
And by the way, on that note, if you do want to send to the P.O. box, it's just erichunley.com/support. There's a P.O. box there. Make sure you note, hey, this is for Mark. And if you make it out to me and say it's for Mark, I can just transfer it to him without having to mail it again going forward. I have no problem doing that either way.
Oh, okay. So thank you. I just wanted to read this comment, which I thought was really good. These comments are getting really funny, Eric, as Eric and I were talking about before the show, because there's a lot of people who are really into the JFK assassination and other things. But this guy, I just saw this before the show. James Ellroy's book, The Cold 6000, which Barnes talks about a lot, which I've read and have, obviously, is a fictionalization of the events and characters you are covering in the episode. And I said, which I do all the time. I go, so the guy writes, which is kind of funny. No, and I was vaping some Maui Wowie, and it seemed relevant then. I just was cracking up before the show because I think that's the bulk of these comments. They make no sense. And this guy was totally honest. I was vaping some Maui Wowie and it seemed relevant then. Man, that's fucking that's hysterical. And
you could relate.
Sorry, I could really. That was just very funny. And the guy was named Ray Davison. So shout out to Ray Davison wherever you are.
Yeah, definitely. We need to collect some more of the comments and just go over.
Yeah, some of them are just hysterically funny. I mean, half the time I don't even know what they're talking about. I think they're talking to each other in the comment section.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not to be confused with this comment section here. I'm talking about the comments, written comments after the show.
Yes.
Not to be
comments on YouTube. But by the way, there's another means of support if you guys if anyone's interested in, and that's super thanks are kind of new.
Super thanks.
Yeah, so it's like the super chat, of which, by the way, we have a few we can go through.
What's this?
Did we see the History Channel show about what happened after the Kennedy assassination, and was it credible?
I think it's a little vague. I don't know what show in particular, guys. The guy's talking about. He has to be more specific. They have.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was 24 hours after. I don't know which one they're talking about. Most of them are deep state operations, just in general. Most of them are run by Nat Geo producers like that we described in a CIA in the media episode, Eric. I think we talked about the Cassios and some others who produced a bunch of these. Max Holland is a guy who produces this stuff. It turns out all of those productions, except for The Men Who Killed Kennedy, which was Nigel Turner out of England, are mostly done by the deep state. And they're well made. And people go, but it was so well made. Well, if the CIA made shitty product, you go, I ain't watching this. Like we talk about Animal Farm with Orwell, the British animation. It was the most expensive animated film ever made at the time. I think 1949 out of England, roughly speaking. They don't make shoddy product, friends. They make top-notch stuff because they have your money. They're not looking to save any of your money, whether it's making a deep state film or making a deep state documentary or a deep state book. They do not cut corners. They want to use the money to convince you. That's part of why they make these documentaries.
Yeah, the higher the quality, the more legitimate it'll appear.
Right, absolutely. I mean, look at the hatchet job that Alex Gibney did on Julian Assange. I mean, that was a $2 million budget for a documentary funneled through Universal Pictures from the deep state.
It was JFK Declassified.
I know. I'm not really familiar with that one. I don't know.
Some of them have titles.
Yeah, I don't know that particular title off the top of my head, but I'm sure I must have seen it. I don't know what part was declassified, but Freewheeling Fridays. That's another channel. That's wagon. That's how to make wagon wheels for Old West wagons out in St. Louis. That's a great show on how to build wagon wheels. Free Wheeling Friday. Record the show on VHS and mail us copies. Well, if you're in prison and have a VCR, I will.
Hey, don't put it past the boomer here. So, but watch it,
dude. I use VHS all the time. I mean,
yeah, he does. He's got a VHS to DVD.
Because a lot of my
converter.
Kennedy stuff is on VHS. So I transfer it to DVD, and from where it goes from there, I don't know.
It magically gets to me.
Magically gets uploaded to something. I don't know.
Super sticker from Lady Freddie. Thank you. Lisa, love your shows. Shows are always awesome. Thank you very much.
Well, they're not always awesome. I mean, come on. I mean, some of them are great. Some of them are good. Some of them are awesome.
Okay. We'll
I was looking at the pics of Oswald holding the gun with my 14-year-old asked if it was a Biden. Oh, that's funny. I had to tell myself, don't go there. Don't go there. That's funny. I should pay you $4.99, Kizzy. That's a great comment. Wow.
All right. Sips.
Thanks for confirming regarding Gab. Okay. Yeah. That was part of I was most eager to hear about. Really? Okay. Well, you should have said something. I would have done it earlier. But I just ran out of time at the end there. I had to donate plasma today with Super Chat.
Well, thank you. That's commitment.
Right. Oh, plasma. Okay. I told you that story when I walked all the way from 96 to 14th Street. They told me my blood was too thin. And I was being laughed at by the homeless who got $14 and bought wine with it.
Well,
Mark needs Cash App. Yeah, a lot of people I know have a Cash App. Is that what Cash Apps or what?
It does. It's very similar to Venmo and all that, but it's different. So
right,
we can get you set up on it.
Okay, but is that penetrable? I don't know. What's the deal with that one?
I don't know the full details. I know it. Okay. I know it works. It's an option. Yes, we did get a couple shout outs from Viva on Megan Kelly's show.
Those were great shout outs by Viva. I got to tell you, I don't know where Viva is today. You said he was going to take his kids to Chuck E. Cheese or something. But I invited him. I invited him on the show because I wanted to thank him actually for those shout outs. Those were very funny.
Have you seen the gay club shooter's dad get interviewed? I fell on my shirt. He said,
I can't, not yet. There's some things I'm not in a hurry to see. That seemed like one of them. You know what I mean? I kind of get the gist of this thing, but when they skip over the shooter and now go after his family because the shooter is in simpatico with the people he killed in terms of gender identity, you're really reaching. You're really reaching. I mean, if I did that and then they went after my mother, saying, my mother says he was always a bad kid. You know what I mean? Like, why would you skip the guy himself who is now saying that he is non-binary or whatever he claims to be? And,
somebody did point out, though, it is possible that this person being just a psychopathic asshole is just doing another troll on people. Like rubbing their nose in it. So I'm not doing this.
I don't think he was smart enough to pull that off. You know what I mean? This is something that they have. They're calling him MX now and they, them pronouns. I mean, there was a lot of depth to his non-binary life. It wasn't right. There was more details and that are in the court filings, unless he's committing, perjury in the court filings. I don't know. There must be some documentation. Otherwise, he's going to get busted for that, Eric. I mean, in other words, people have suggested that's his made-up defense. There has to, the lawyers did just not make that up. There has to be some sort of social media track record of him as that person, in my humble opinion. Call me crazy, but they just didn't come up with that in 48 hours.
Fair enough. Okay, somebody just wrote a lot of stuff here. I don't know what it is on locals.
Oh, what else is there?
Hugh D. Auchincloss was Jackie O's mother's second husband. Son Hugh Auchincloss, Fauci's right-hand man, and his son Jake, Congressman, 4th Massachusetts District. Mother runs Dana-Farber and BOD of Analog Devices, Teddy Healthcare. Do not trust Kennedy's. There's a lot there. Highway to Serfdom. You might want to write it out more because I'm having trouble with the context. But Soltron on Locals has a question. Not sure if Eric is reading questions from Locals. Guess
Apparently
what?
He is. Look at Hunley.
Here we go.
From Locals.
Mark, have you talked much about Robert Oswald? Do you think he worked for an intelligence agency?
Well, it's an interesting thing about Robert Oswald. He seemed to be pretty much a straight shooter, from what I understand. When Lee comes back to Fort Worth, he stays with Robert Oswald, and Robert Oswald's wife takes Marina shopping for the first time in an American supermarket. And Marina breaks down crying, and she says, "What's the matter, honey?" And it was the amount of different loaves of bread that they had in the supermarket. I don't know if it was a Piggly Wiggly. I'm not really sure what was in Fort Worth at the time, but she started sobbing that there were 20 different loaves of bread and she didn't know which to choose from. I remember that story, but I've never really found anything bad about Robert Oswald linked to intelligence or linked to anything other than being his brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it would be kind of a shitty situation. I mean,
right.
If you think about it. So.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he was. And the mother, don't forget, the mother kept writing to J. Edgar Hoover while he was over. Did Mark just say Oswald was a straight shooter? Yeah, I said that before. I thank you. But the reality of it is his mother was saying that he was an intelligence operative for years to Hoover and to protect her son. And afterwards, too, when she contacted and contracted with orally Mark Lane to represent her and her son. So it was not a secret. I mean, the whole family, the Muret family, and again, I don't know about Robert Oswald, but the Muret family in New Orleans were all filled with spooks. All of them were, not all of them, but there was a big contingent in the Muret family that were operatives. And as we point out in our episode on the CIA, they like to work with families.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fleet Lord Atvar has more to say on Rumble. My name from Harry Turtledove, famous for alt history, who I have read, Guns in the South, sci-fi book, Atvar, Pragmatic Lizard of Invasion's Force. He's suggesting Buy Me a Coffee as another choice.
Buy Me a Coffee is a choice of what?
Where you could get people to donate.
That's a thing?
Yeah, buymeacoffee.com. You can sign up there.
I never heard of that.
That's another one. Okay.
Right. There's another one called Buy Me a Bag of Dope. I don't know if that one really works anymore.
That's your neighborhood.
But okay, buymeacoffee.com. Another choice.
Well, the bag's big enough,
Yeah.
It could be worth something.
Yeah.
Jennifer saying no troll zone. Creeps not allowed. Love this channel and you both. Keep sharing the truth as it's a limited commodity these days.
Yeah, like I said to Eric when we started this thing, we don't want to allow lone nutters onto the comments or onto the channel because first of all, it's a waste of time. I equate them to being like Holocaust deniers. So I don't want to have them on the channel or commenting. You could go other places. You just can't come here. I don't care where you go, but lone nutters that Oswald did this alone are not welcome here. I say this every couple of months, and I'll say it again. You could go anywhere you want, but you're not coming here because we are so way past that we don't have the time to even address that. We're now 30 years past that idea in terms of research, documentation, film, video. That is a step way backwards into a time machine. Thanks.
Fair enough. And in terms of a lot of it, I'm kind of going with the Barnes rule on things that sort of like a bar. Now, everybody's welcome to the bar, but if you act out of hand, you get tossed.
Right. Well, we look at it like Holocaust denial at this point in the JFK research community. It's the equivalent of denying the existence of the Holocaust. Do they exist, these people? Yeah. There's plenty of Holocaust deniers running around. Mel Gibson's father in Australia was one of the world's largest Holocaust deniers. We were taught as kids not to engage them in a debate because by talking to them, you're justifying their argument. By having a debate, quote unquote, with them, you've now brought them up to your level. That's what I was taught as a kid growing up in New York. And I apply the same logic and the same philosophy to Oswald lone nut assassin theorists.
Right. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm taking it a little further. So it's not just lone nutters. It's if somebody's being a real asshole, they can get tossed too.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. but I thought I would go ahead and mention it.
By
This
Mark,
should
a 3.5.
Maui Wowie 10 of 10 Stoner recommended, goes great with America's Untold Stories.
That's funny. That's funny. Does Maui Wowie still exist? Is that still a brand? I mean,
I don't know.
EBD.
Wait a minute. Was it even a
EBD.
brand?
It was a name. I mean, but it's so old. I mean,
I know, but it was like a nickname, right? Like Mary Jane.
Right. I mean, if you go to the dispensary here in Hollywood, I mean, there's 8,000 versions of Maui Wowie.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Did we watch the new PDB podcast with Eugenio was on there with the other guy? I forgot his name. I watched a little bit of it, but not all of it. It's not as good as Mark's interview. Would I know?
Yeah, I don't think that it probably could be. I don't blame them. I mean, Eugenio and I have known each other for years through Oliver and stuff. So I don't know how that possibly could be. But.
Well, you were also shorthanding it. So I mean, Mark's is such a casual conversation, and you could pick it up even just on the teaser clips that I've picked out, that it is
we're
very laid back,
like me and Eric talk. You know what I mean? It's kind of loosey goosey, which is why it's a good interview. It's not like a staged kind of a setup. I mean, we're laughing at each other's jokes, you know, that are inside JFK research community jokes. I mean, I'm not in that community. Don't get me wrong. I'm kind of a person on the outside as a legitimate journalist, but I have been on the fringe of that community for many, many years. And I'm also a member of Citizens, opposed to political assassination.
Oh, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. That I have to criticize a little bit. It's like Citizens Against Political Assassinations, as opposed to, the Citizens for Political Assassinations.
That's their name. They've been around for 40 years. I don't know. That's the name.
I know, but what a goofy name.
Well, it goes back to the Frank Church Committee in the 70s that was the first and only one to really look at the CIA, and the revelations came out that they were assassinating political leaders, and that was a new revelation when this thing was formed. So it has certain vernacular ties into that church committee from the old days, is where it came from. That being said, I'm also a member of the Education Forum and some of these other JFK, Mary Farrell, I'm a member of, So I am a member of these groups. I'm not active like Jim is. I mean, these guys are super active on there. I'm into some other things, but because of the conference, it was like old home week going down there with Eric. I mean, when the interview with Phil Nelson is worth the whole trip to Dallas for me,
Oh, well, yeah, it was awesome. I mean,
that was worth it.
And I look forward to putting, all of these up. I'm tweaking a little bit. I think that Matt Douthat may be the first one I put up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, him I didn't know. That was Rob Morrow, who I've known for years. Immediately fronted that guy in after we were done with the Rob Morrow interview, and what Eric is referring to is this guy who is an expert on J.D. Tippett's murder. And I was glad to hear him, because anyone who's an expert on Tippett, I'm more than welcome to hear, because it's such an enigma. No one's ever really figured it out, but this kid, whoever he was, which you'll see in the interview on Locals, is the leading guy in that community on Tippett.
Yeah, I guess he has the largest JFK private group on Facebook too.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah, good guy.
Dude, he was like taking out notes for the interview, Eric. He was like taking out. He goes,
he doesn't play.
This guy said, I just want to get this right. And then he did a great job. He got a little nervous, but we try to calm him down.
Good dude. I'm going to put that. I'm going to be putting that out. Well, maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday. Something like that. I'm not putting everything out all at one time. Eugenio is obviously a big one. That's going to have to be caught up a bit. Then we have Rob Morrow. We've got Philip H. Nelson. We have your French Canadian. I forgot his name.
Paul Blow. Although it's
Paul
spelled
Blow.
Pleau. He pronounced it Blow. I don't care.
I won't argue with
whatever Viva says. This is what the guy. I thought it was bleh, but he said Blow, and so I'm taking him at his word.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, that guy's an expert on the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Ironically, I don't know. I thought it was because of the French community in New Orleans, might have been a connection to him in the French community in Montreal. I asked him about that. He said no, but I said, all right, whatever. but his area of expertise is the Fair Play for Cuba committees.
Oh, we have some cheeky bastards in the chat, which I love. Yes, I think that John Hinckley is a lone nut.
Could be.
Technically, yes.
Well, on Tuesday, we're going to talk about Charles Guiteau, who may or may not have been a lone nut. So tune in on Tuesday for a much more in-depth assassination episode on Garfield's assassination, because I'm going to stick my neck out on this one, that there was a conspiracy to kill Garfield, and we're going to get into it on Tuesday with Charles Guiteau. So he was considered the first lone nut and was really nuts, but was he alone?
Okay, I'm going to jump to locals for some questions. Mixer61, Mark, that PDF you posted about the 300 suspicious deaths had a different story about Tippit shooting. One shooter, mobster.
Right. Again, my particular stories are not going to be reflected in every single piece of documentation that's out there. I'm putting stuff up. It doesn't have to reflect my theories. Mm-hmm. Right. I agree. Again, this is different. I'm trying to give everyone a taste here of what's out there.
Yep. I see a question coming up I don't even want to get into, but
yeah. By the way, nobody agrees 100% with each other. Even me, even me and Jim had probably.
Well, Cyril Weck doesn't agree about the placement of the shooters. I was really surprised about that.
Right. And so, I mean, the closest to me and Jim are probably off by 5 or 10% in our theories. You know what I mean? So I don't know. People have different things. Morrow's got different things than Phil Nelson. They don't get along. These become personal problems after a while, I guess.
All right, Pasha, you jumped the line, but that's funny.
Citizens against political compa. No.
Right. Citizens for political.
That's the competing organization.
Equals the deep state, right?
That's a competing organization. Well, there is, just so you know, there is an organization with David Atlee Phillips and all of it's called Former Intelligence Officers, a couple other words. It's actually a retired intelligence officers community, and they have their own organization, which I always thought was hysterical, including David Atlee Phillips. He's in there.
Oh, definitely. Let's see. Back to locals. Rolf Peterson sent us a tip on locals. Happy Thanksgiving and thanks for your work. Thank you, Rolf.
Thank you.
Sophia Gabe. Thanks, guys. Great content. Soltron from Locals wants to know.
Back.
Soltron is back on Locals. Has Mark ever participated in a Chekhov acting class?
No, but I was in the National Improvisation Theater in New York. I don't know about Chekhov acting class, but I've acted in various films that are available. Usually friends of mine who are directors just giving me a gig, but I was in this other group, the National Improvisation Theater, and I was with Andy Kaufman's brother in there, Michael Kaufman. When Andy Kaufman passed away, Michael Kaufman was the brother of the comedian Andy Kaufman. He was one of the members with me, but it turned out that it was a Scientology front, Eric. And that's when I heard about that. Yes. Yeah. That's when I exited stage left. I didn't know. And once I found that out, I was done. But it was weird. They tried to convert us to Scientology.
Wow. Okay. Rolf Peterson gave us a Rumble rant.
What?
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving and thanks for your work. Well, thank you again. Another Rumble rant. Awoflor. AWOHLFOR. Looking forward to the full Jim D. Eugenio interview on Locals. Coming soon.
It's a good one. I think it's about an hour and a half, right? I mean, it seemed like 20 minutes, but Eric said it was an hour and a half.
Yep. It was enough to run out the GoPro battery. And
how long is the one with David? David?
2 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's 2 hours.
But the other guy was there. Honestly, I think what I saw of it, yours was just far better because you were just riffing with Patrick Bet David, and it's not a criticism, but Jim was just very subdued, like, yes, I'm following. He was on good behavior. With you, he's like, you did what? And you're laughing your asses off right from the jump. So it's just totally laid back. So again,
we were comparing notes about our relation with Oliver Stone. That's why we were laughing. He was telling stories, and I was telling stories, and then. But
it was loose. It was a much freer, just chill episode. Krabby D Girth on Rumbles. Krabby T Girth.
Dude, I'm telling you, they got names on Rumble that killing YouTube.
This $10 Rumble rant. Mark, when are you going to kick Mothman's ass? Also,
when I end up back in Florida and somehow get up to Mothman's territory, it's just a little out of the way. But maybe if we were ever in Tim Pool country or around there, maybe we can go do that. It's just a weird part of the country. That's why.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, the second part. Also, have you ever worked with David Paulides on any missing persons or Paulides?
I don't know who that is. Missing persons?
Yeah, or Paulides?
Listen, I've got a lot of friends who became missing persons, and I had to find them on my own. I wish I had a professional group to do that, but that has happened in many times, unfortunately, in my life.
And Costco Law School, just in the chat, is asking, ask Bet David about insurance pyramid schemes. I'm not going to, but yes, there has been a video put out by CoffeeZilla pointing out that Patrick Bet David has a school that maybe
a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it could be not completely as transparent as one might like. So,
wow.
I will say though, he puts on a good show.
Yeah, so, it looks it looks like a professional, high budget operation. I don't know where this guy came from. I've been asking Eric about this for a year. Like, who is this guy? Where they come from? What the deal is? We got contacted by some booker who wanted to book me on the show. It disappeared after that. A guy from Peru. The whole thing seemed really sketchy, to be honest with you. But I guess Jim went and did it, so it must be legit.
Okay, back to locals. Nadaf Maver is asking a question for you, as he did ask me, I guess, 3 times, and I don't know. Are we going to talk about the USS Liberty?
Highly doubtful.
There we go. And unless it's in passing with another story, probably, right? Let me see.
We try to focus on stories that are not involving other countries. Like Eric asked me about John Lennon, but I said John Lennon's British, and he said, well, Chapman's not. So again, I'm trying to focus, because we have so many stories on solely, completely 100% American stories. Let's keep that in mind. There are plenty of stories with both countries, but I'm trying to just do stories of our history. Somebody in the UK reached out saying, he loves these stories and he's learning about American history through these stories. And I said, look, you probably know 1 billion stories more about the UK than I will ever know and could care to know. But that's his country. That's his country, which is fine. This is our country. The reason I wanted to do this was because our own history is being demolished by what I believe are, Marxist in an organized way, as many of us have seen in the past 3 years. So I wanted to get these stories on the record with Eric before the rest of our history is disintegrated, if that makes any sense to anybody at home.
Right. Also, I mean, I'm trying to think of the right term for it, but we curate stories. We're not saying one story is worth it or not worth it or whatever else. A lot of it is, what does Mark feel like spending days reading multiple books on at the time to put out as a story?
Right. I mean, I got back to Garfield this week, and it may have been because I had done the election story, and then I stumbled on the Garfield. I mean, I have files on all this stuff, so it's not like I'm starting from scratch. I have, really large files on the Garfield assassination, but I got to dust them off, go out in the garage, get them out of the file cabinet, get the books. And one thing kind of leads to another in my crazy mind. So it may not make any sense as to why we're doing Garfield Tuesday, but we just did Kennedy. So maybe it does make some sense, Yeah,
and we'll probably do McKinley down the road.
Yeah, we'll get to McKinley.
Good themes here.
Yeah, I mean, we could group them all together under presidential assassinations. We obviously did Lincoln already. Oddly enough, and I just learned this. It's kind of an interesting thing, which just to tease out the episode for Tuesday, the American people could not believe that a president needed security even after Lincoln. They believed that the Lincoln assassination was an aberration because of the Civil War. 20 years later, Garfield has no security and again is assassinated. But the American people did not connect that with security for the president. They did. It was just beyond their comprehension, despite Lincoln. As odd as that can be, it is true. And you'll see on Tuesday what I'm talking about. Bizarre.
Well, I mean, we have look, 9/11's already fading for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking 20 years, a lot. I mean, that's a generation. It's like,
well, they believe that the Lincoln assassination was because
a fluke,
right? But because of Civil War related,
sure,
and a fluke in general, because no president was assassinated, so they couldn't see it happening again, and took no precaution. There was no
but good news though, they made up for lost time. You know, after Lincoln went, it was like, okay, we got Garfield, we got McKinley, we've got Kennedy. Yeah. We're going to try for Truman. We'll try for Reagan. We'll try for Ford. So it was like
when they got to Truman, they were shooting back by the Truman one already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
they were fighting back when they came for Truman. That was kind of interesting. They got a couple of them.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, let me go back to some YouTube. Thank you very much, John. Is the movie Confessions of a Dangerous Mind real?
No.
All right.
You mean you talk about Barris?
It must be the game show thing. And
Chris Banks is right for some reason that none of us can understand.
He must be a good father.
He's right. I'm not a father, so Chuck E. Cheese. If I ever went to Chuck E. Cheese, I don't even know where it is or what it is, but apparently every family and parent knows about Chuck E. Cheese.
All right, Mark, have you read Paul Gregory's books?
I have not. I forgot what he's claiming. Somebody mentioned that this weekend about Paul Gregory.
Yeah, that's right. Is there a new one? He's got a new one coming out or something's up with him.
Something's up with Paul. I forget what it was. Somebody's going to have to give me some more information on Paul Gregory.
Somebody's adding more about the Auchincloss remarks related.
Yeah, all these people are related. I mean, I
just don't know them. Yeah,
we all know. I mean, DeMarshall knew her, and everybody knows everybody. Yeah, it's a deep state. Everybody's connected. we all know that. Tread Laser
says I shorted you on the 3.5 LOL Stoners United. Oh my God!
Come on, give it up, bro. Give it up.
All right, Sheer Genius is thankful for Mort Saul.
Oh, yeah. No, Mort Saul was one of my, of course, I mean, one of my inspirations. I mean, everybody in the comedy world was inspired by Mort Saul of a certain generation. I mean, the number one and first comedy albums of prominence were Mort Saul. And then the performances and everything else by Mort Saul. I mean,
yeah, it was Mort Saul, then Newhart, right?
Yeah. Well, Newhart, then Red Fox had in the African-American community, Red Fox had the party albums that were filthy. Yeah. But Mort Saul had album after album live that were clean recordings of high quality and sold like tons and tons of albums. Yeah.
All right, Joel. I think I heard Mark say he believes the Zapruder film wasn't altered. So the limo driver didn't stop. John Costello, the physics prof's work was very convincing to me. I don't think you said that they didn't stop.
Okay.
I'm confused.
Well, I just want to know when the film was altered. What day? Just tell me what day it was altered. Because we've been watching it for 70 years after that, and it seems to be the same head getting blown off. But, you know, the earlier film altered was Greer, the stopping of the car, Greer, turned around with a handgun and blew Kennedy's head off. That was one alteration that they tried to sell. That disappeared. Then, of course, George Hickey with the AR-15 standing up and shooting Kennedy in the head was another deep state attempt to say the film was altered and finding that. They're not going to stop people with the Zapruder film because it is the Rosetta Stone of the assassination. They have to, every couple of years, they come up with a professor who is going to do their bidding and say the film was altered. But it is the Rosetta Stone of the assassination, and they did not count for that. They did not, and they try to bury it. And they did bury it, Eric, you know, in the vault of Time Life. until it was brought out by Robert Groden and shown on Geraldo.
A good point. Please discuss John Armstrong's work regarding two Oswalds.
Okay, so Armstrong's a genius, and he has put out a voluminous work on the two Oswalds. And what he does is documents an Oswald himself and an Oswald double throughout the entire years of the assassination. And that goes back into the 50s in Moscow. And it's just a masterful work, probably not all completely accurate, but he establishes that there are Oswald doubles and with timelines that go on forever of Oswald being cited here and Oswald being cited there. And I'm generally speaking, and one of the obvious examples was J. Edgar Hoover himself citing in a letter that Oswald's name was being used in New Orleans while he was living in Minsk after defecting to the Soviet Union. And that's in 1959. So the Oswald doubles are not related directly to the assassination. They happened back in 1959 already, which John Armstrong puts into the book. Also, he brings it up into 1963 in September, October, November, people at various rifle ranges and buying cars and Jeeps for, in New Orleans. And there's a whole list of things that Armstrong documents of Oswald doubles. It says the two Oswalds, but it's really about the doubling of Oswald throughout a huge portion of the Cold War from 58 to 63 or 59 to 63 of 4 years of doubles. So obviously there's some meat on that bone for sure.
All right. Well, David's trying to make up for a lost time here. Apparently he just suggested everybody come here. So,
where is it? Chuck E. Cheese? He's saying that at Chuck E. Cheese?
He might be, avoiding the kids.
Attention shoppers.
Maybe he's sneaking.
Go to America's Untold Stories.
Yep. Either that or Chuck E. Cheese. Pick one.
That means he's streaming at Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
You think so? I was kidding. He probably is.
No, he probably is. Oh, come on. How much fun is he going to have with some of this?
Do they have rides there, like a gym, like a monkey bars and stuff?
You know what? I don't know. Chuck E. Cheese is always like this mysterious
Me too.
thing.
I don't know what goes on there. I mean, if there's somebody at home who knows this, what goes on? It has like a playground or something. And
I think they had video, like a bunch of video games and different things for kids. So it's like by the time I was able to afford it, or it was near enough to me, I was too old to even think about doing it.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know.
Right.
All right, Sparty Matt, will we ever do an episode on Werner von Braun?
German, probably not.
We talk about him in other
stuff. I mean, we brought him into the Ruth Payne episode. I mean, you're not going to get the full episode of a German, that's for sure. I don't mean that to be dismissive of Germans, but that would be German Untold Stories. Whoever makes that channel, good luck.
All right, well, here we go. Request for you, Mark.
So help me pick a movie to watch. Oh, Leaving Las Vegas. That's depressing. Requiem for a Dream is totally depressing.
The Road is depressing. I would go with
The Road. Viggo Mortensen. Take The Road. Take The Road.
That's depressing too, isn't it?
They're all three of them are depressing. But
I know. What kind of taste is this? Someone who likes Hitchcock, I guess. I mean, can't go for suspense and less depression.
I go with The Road because we may be there shortly. That's what I'm saying. Requiem for a Dream, obviously, written by my friend Cubby Selby, Hubert Selby Jr. Fantastic book. He's got a little cameo part in the movie, Cubby, which was his nickname, Hubert Selby. But the book's better than the movie, although the movie's good. The movie's good, but highly depressing. Ellen Burstyn as a amphetamine addict in Coney Island.
This one I just happened to see go by. Do either of us have offspring? Not that
I know of. I'm not paying checks. I'm not sending checks. Let me put it that way.
Oh, Cooper M, more like America's Untold Stone Era after reading these comments.
I guess so. I mean, people have their vices. I guess you could put anything in a vape.
This is one I'm interested in here too. What are your thoughts of Mark Lane and his involvement / presence at Jonestown?
First of all, I don't think he was at Jonestown itself. I don't know did he visit Jonestown or something? So did the congressman from San Francisco. I mean, a lot of people visited Jonestown. It was on the radar for a lot of official DC when it first got set up. I mean, so I don't know what his involvement, quote unquote, is there.
Well, I was thinking that it could be a deep state thing too. Like if he did interview him in any way or whatever, or he was a lawyer, so
Right.
who knows? Could have been trying to hire him or something.
Right, but I'm saying a lot of people were involved in Jonestown even before they went to Jonestown. Even in San Francisco, they were considered quite legit, as a church. And then and Jonestown was considered a religious socialist experiment, which we're going to do an episode eventually on the Oneida community up in upstate New York. Was one of the first socialist communes in America, and it's going to tie in a little bit to the episode on Tuesday with Charles Guiteau, who was a member of the Oneida community. But Jonestown itself was a type of Oneida religious socialist community that has a long history in the United States. And when we do the episode on the Oneida community, you'll see how that, and some of you ladies at home know about Oneida silverware. And Oneida,
yeah.
That's where it comes from, my friends. The free love Oneida community of Oneida, New York, which was a socialist experimental community of which had different branches around the country and was enormous. They had over 200 people employed making things at their height, the 1850s, 1860s. And Charles Guiteau, who assassinated Garfield, was a member.
You'll have to look into Mel Lyman, by the way. So that just popped in my head. The East Coast family.
Yeah.
That guy's weird. Rolf Peterson, third location. Happy Thanksgiving.
Around. Where is he now?
I don't know, man. If I look again, he might be in locals. But thank you very much, Rolf. Always helpful. This is the question I saw fly by, and I really didn't want to even think about or deal with. But here we go. Always enjoy the show. What was Trump thinking having dinner with Nick Fuentes? This isn't 2016. Trump can't afford unforced errors.
Exactly the conversation Eric and I were having right before the episode. I have no idea. We just had this conversation, Eric and I, same thing. I have no idea. And I don't know how to answer the question. So
that's why I was like, I saw that coming and I'm like, that's a fantastic question. Right. That's how I would leave
the only answer I gave to Eric was in Nixon's memoir called I Gave Them a Sword. Nixon talks about how he gave his enemies a sword and they stuck it in. And that's the only thing I can come up with in terms of what this crazy stunt was about.
Oh, let me see. Okay, Tony Clifton.
Clifton is,
I only read your normal chats, not your super chats. Actually, your super chat is coming up soon.
I'll just tell you this. My ex-girlfriend, Skylar Alfergren, who was a journalist, interviewed Tony Clifton in bed in a hotel when she was writing for Hustler magazine and filmed it. Went in with a crew, and Tony Clifton was in bed with two Playboy bunnies. It was a setup. I mean, it was all a stunt. But it was Andy Kaufman or Tony Clifton in bed in a hotel in Hollywood, and she interviewed him as part of a piece she did for Hustler magazine.
All right.
So take that, Tony Clifton.
Yeah, Glenn Kirk. I have been fascinated by the Kennedy story since I was 14. My parents bought me books on it every birthday and Christmas for years. Your coverage was awesome. Thank you.
What kind of parents gives their kid Kennedy assassination books for their birthday?
I don't know. Someone depressed.
I'd like to know what your parents did for a living.
And I'm glad Secret McSquirrel pointed this out. Ziggy Shrug, who you've seen on here, made ornaments for us, both Christmas and Hanukkah. There's even a dreidel. Definitely could check out her site. And when we get in and talk about the different stuff, I'll try to remember to show them off. Mark forgot to talk about one part of the show. I forgot to mention those.
Yeah, right.
Definitely want to share that. We did talk about the.
I just did that, didn't I?
We did talk about that, already. But if somebody gives me a super chat, I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, get John Armstrong's exhaustive work. I don't even know if it's a book. Of course, years ago. But you should read Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States if you really want to know the truth. Forget about Howard Zinn. Read the Oliver Stone version, Untold History of the United States. That's where I got the idea for the story for this show.
Yeah, yeah, it very much influenced the name.
Yep.
I almost hate to ask, yeah, will you ever cover suspicious deaths around? I don't know. I mean,
it's kind of vague.
it's covered a lot.
It's been covered a lot. I mean, Seth Rich is really the only one I'm really interested in, because
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to wait a few years for that to get released.
66 years, apparently, according to the FBI. They need 66 years. I don't know where they got that number from, but they'd like the court to seal his computer, which has nothing on it, for 66 years.
Oh, of course, of course. Secret Mixed World, yes. Rumble. Again, we're getting really close to over 5,000. If you want to check us out over at Rumble, and pretty easy to find. Yeah, but I definitely want to keep showing Rumble support, obviously local support, because it makes a big difference.
Well, speaking of which, those Rumble subscribers don't disappear like they disappear on YouTube. I'll tell you that much.
No. Okay, Krabby T Girth. Speaking of Rumble, go through some rants here. Did you guys do a show on DB Cooper? We did not, but
there's so many shows on DB Cooper, man. I mean,
right. Well, and I had
we're trying to do untold stories, emphasis on untold.
On my channel, Eric Hunley, I have interviewed people who have done DB Cooper.
Okay.
If anybody wants to check that out. A wall floor. David Paulides, missing 411 to be a great guest. Bigfoot, missing hikers, national parks. Maybe, but we don't do guests here.
We don't do guests. The only guests we ever have are
Viva and Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we had Max Good, but that's because we did the episode, and we interviewed him again, down in Dallas. Updates on the Ruth Payne story, and we learned some fascinating things, didn't we, Eric?
Oh, for sure,
Right? About Ruth Payne.
Seen him.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's different, and that's actually additive material.
We're not good at it. I mean, Eric knows that. I mean, I can interview. I've interviewed thousands and thousands of people. I'm not doing this channel to continue interviewing. This is about storytelling, but with me and Eric telling you stories. It's not an interview show per se. That's not what this is. So, I mean, Eric interviews a ton of people on his channel, and I've interviewed thousands of people, written articles about people, but that's not what this particular thing is. I hear everybody say, you got to get this guy on your show. Obviously, you've never seen the show then, because we don't get these guys on the show. It's not the Tonight Show.
Right. I may interview somebody on my show, but in general, I keep them separate. I don't talk a lot about other channels.
Separate but equal is what the Supreme Court ruled on the Hunley channel.
Allegedly. Speaking of which, Nate the lawyer might show up on here, but the only people we have on here are our friends, and it's more of a hangout or relevant to something like. And we may make an exception. Like I may interview Seth Kinney down the road if he comes on, because it's related to.
Well, that being said, have we heard anything? I saw there was a holiday picture of the Baldwin family today on Instagram.
Apparently, it's very difficult to wrangle a lot of kids.
Right, that's
that's the news of the day. Yes.
Yeah. That it was a big pain in the ass for the professional photographer to get all 19 kids in one photo with Valeria and Alexaria, the top patrons of the family.
The Hilaria. Oh, speaking of which, Kyle Dunnigan is in a movie with Jerry Seinfeld. He had Seinfeld.
I saw that Seinfeld interview. Is he in the film?
Yeah, I guess they're doing a film. I was like, whoa, Seinfeld discovered him on YouTube. So there's hope.
Weird.
So, no, I was very impressed. I was like, holy.
Jerry and I grew up in Massapequa together. So I'm here. I could have been in the film, but you went with Donegan. Okay, you made your choice.
Yep, it looks that way. Let me see. Kovefovich, there's a name from Rumble. Read Garrison's book and bio of Frenchie Bruliette recently. Garrison underplays any role of Marcello, and Frenchie's version embellishes. Frenchie's version matches rumors going around New Orleans in the late 70s.
Okay, I've heard that too.
Okay,
I mean, Garrison had his hands full. He didn't write a book about Marcello. Other people have, and whatever scuttlebutt you have on him. I mean, the guy's an American hero. I mean, let the guy alone already. I mean, he did so much good for this country, Jim Garrison. They just, he didn't do this about Marcello. the Kennedys took Marcello and they put him in Guatemala, with alligator shoes and let him try to get out of the jungle of Guatemala. That was a federal thing. The Attorney General's office dealt with Marcello in that regard.
Okay. Let me see. Rusty Gus sent a $10 tip, something for Mark's outstanding remarks. This is locals.
Oh, okay. What outstanding remark? These?
Oh, all of your remarks are outstanding.
Okay.
Okay. Mimi Tanaka on locals is sharing some Donald J. Trump, not tweets. I guess it's on True Social. This past week, Kanye West called me to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Shortly thereafter, he unexpectedly showed up with 3 of his friends, whom I knew nothing about. We had dinner on Tuesday evening with many members present on the back patio. The dinner was quick and uneventful. They then left for the airport.
Okay, that's weird. I mean, at least it's an explanation of some sort, minimizing the thing. But
yeah, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, was asking me for advice concerning some of his difficulties, in particular having to do with his business. We also discussed, to a lesser extent, politics, where I told him he should definitely not run for president. Any voters you may have should vote for Trump. Anyway, we got along great. He expressed no anti-Semitism, and I appreciated all the nice things he said to me about me on Tucker Carlson. Why wouldn't I agree to meet? Also, I didn't know Nick Fuentes.
Okay, well, there's a statement at least. But if the guy was on Twitter, I think more people, like maybe 89 million, would get that statement instead of wonderful Tanaka digging it out of Truth Social. Thank you, Mimi. But the reality of it is, this guy, for political purposes and for communication purposes, has to find a way to get back on Twitter contractually, whether he's got to eat that contract or not, or find a way to modify that contract. He has to be able to do what she just did, but to 89 million people on Twitter who are not going to hear Mimi's,
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also
what happens when your grandfather runs the country. So, and I don't mean Biden. I mean this other grandfather.
Or maybe have some people around you who say,
"Who is that guy? How about that one?
Yeah.
Who is that guy?"
It might be.
That might be wise to have a guy says, "Who is that guy?" I mean,
somebody who's a little wired in,
right?
Who's that with Kanye?
Maybe a lawyer, maybe a lawyer from Memphis, or some guy who's from, who's a wise, guy who knows the way things work. I'm not going to name names, but you might want to get someone who's more.
I don't know, a lawyer originally from Tennessee is a possibility.
Who might be here next Friday to explain this debacle to all of you on Freeform Double Barrel Friday. So maybe he'll have an explanation, because for the life of me, I can't figure out how anything like this could ever happen to a former sitting president.
There you go.
That's a good. How about starting with that?
That is a very good
idea.
That works very well.
What is he? There's nobody on Google anymore. You can't find the name. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is. There you go. Get Barnes. Agree.
Yeah. It's the name of my new detective series.
All right. Jane Catherine Barry sent us Rebel Rant. Maxine Waters' hubby went from sports star to U.S. ambassador of Bahamas. She has been publicly affectionate with FXT twerp CEO who has Bahamian connections. Do you think anyone will dig deep on this? Somebody will.
Somebody will. I mean, they're going to have hearings just on this. Again, people seem to be amazed that anybody's connected to anybody. They just go, this guy was married to his uncle who was the president of the day. And they go through this long lineage of stuff, as if it's like some sort of conspiracy. That's the deep state itself. You're just showing connections. Paul Pelosi did this and he knew this guy and blah, blah, blah. That is the deep state. That is the deep state. They intermarry. The host in CNN is married to somebody from the Defense Department. What was her name? He used to be on CNN. I forget her name, with the black hair, is British. I'm
going
to Christine Anapur. Right, she was married to the Assistant Secretary of State at one point in the State Department, or a member of the member of the State Department. And that was like one of the first great strange bedfellows, not strange bedfellows, but one of the more interesting connections between news media and politics that I remember. Whoever her husband was, I forget his name now.
Okay, Kofefovich or whatever, said for whatever it's worth, Frenchie was found strangled in 2016, a year after his bio published to general release.
I don't know anything about it. It is what it is. There's plenty of people who are dead,
but hey, Krabby T. Girth, oy vey, here's some book money, $20 Rumble rent. Thank you very much.
Well, have some Kreplock then. Go crazy. Hanukkah's coming, and we've got those. Those black Jews marching around the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, chanting, "The Jews will not replace us." I mean, like I said, these guys have been around for 40 years in New York, and now they have some sort of gravitas because there's a guy on the Nets who apparently is one of them.
Kyrie, Kanye are both saying that they are,
But it's the same knuckleheads, these anti-Semitic dudes who are black nationalists who are marching around the center chanting in Brooklyn, New York, oddly enough, that they are the real Jews and we are fraudulent Jews, if that makes any sense.
And by the way, this is probably a really dumb question, but I don't follow sports. Kyrie Irving, any relation to Dr. J?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he is. No.
I guess Irving's common enough, but anyway, just interesting.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
All right, Kristen Brownrigg. My dad, a Native American, didn't like every Jew he came across in LA, but he did a job for John Landers and admired him. And he was a fan of Mort Saul. Now I am too.
I don't know what that means. Is it John Landis you were talking about? Not John. I don't know who John Landers is.
That might be.
And he admired and was a fan of Mort Saul. I mean, everybody's a fan of Mort Saul. I mean, but I don't know what the Jewish thing has to do with anything there. Who's Gary Fannin? And Books watched a presentation of his, and he mentions Roscoe White as one of the possible assassins.
We're not familiar.
Roscoe White was I think a Dallas policeman who many people believe was involved at some level.
It's a bunch of kids games. Chuck E. Cheese, I bet.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sorry, it took me a minute too. I was like, okay.
Right.
Oh, here we go. Lane was a lawyer for Jones at the Jonestown for the massacre. Okay,
he was after he was dead, or
I don't know. He might have been Jim Jones' lawyer, but that I
don't know. Jim Jones had the complete support of the left way before this happened.
Oh, look at this, Georgina. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Chuck E. Cheese is a pizza and salad place. There's arcade games, slides, some kids' rides and stuff.
Right.
There's a recorded big
automatic
characters who perform.
Oh, wow.
Animatronic maybe? Huh. Wow. Chuck E. Cheese is the character. It's overpriced. It's pretty much for the kids.
Okay.
All right. Wait a minute. Oh, you know what? There's another variant. I don't know if it's Chuck E. Cheese or some other place, but the guy who created Atari, the CEO of Atari, moved on and did Chuck E. Cheese or this other place. I forgot what it was. Nolan Bushnell. And that was Steve Jobs' first job, was working for Nolan Bushnell for Atari.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just useless trivia.
Okay.
It is freeform. Andy Kaufman, too funny, taught me not to take life too seriously.
Yeah, Kaufman was a genius. I mean, the brother, Michael Kaufman, who I said was in this school with me, I don't know if he would have been Andy Kaufman, but I remember Andy Kaufman was dying in Mexico, taking off-label, bizarre cancer treatments, and Michael had to go down there the last couple of days, and then he passed away while we were together in the school.
See that makes me think back to Steve Jobs and Bob Marley.
Yeah. Same thing.
Because I have read multiple times that, like, I know for a fact Steve Jobs had the only pancreatic cancer that was treatable, and all he had to do was have the surgery. But he was too busy, like fruitarian diets and this and that. And I guess Bob Marley had like cancer in his toe. He could just cut it off or just treated it, but he like ignored it and didn't deal with and ultimately killed them both.
I'm not sure about the Andy Kaufman diagnosis. I just remember Michael telling me he had to go down because of his brother, and then he died, when he was down there.
Wow, that is sad. Okay, Helton, aka Faster Man, great photographer. I want to be the first ever to give $1 million super chat.
Okay.
Check my wallet and only have $5. Catch you next week.
Oh, well, your heart's in the right place. Your wallet, not in the right place, but your heart in the right place.
Yeah, well, if this is talking about Amber Heard, it would be
$10.
A pledge.
Right, a pledge.
And at least there's cash. It's not just a pledge. There's some cash involved, right. So thank you.
Oh, right. She pledged all that money, right.
Right. Scott Grumpy. Hi, guys. Just letting you know, for the holidays, I'm identifying as chocolate in my pronouns. Her, she.
Her, she. Ah, that's funny. That's funny. Way to go, Grump.
All right. Soltron. Mark, you ever found out what pain you're living next to?
I don't know, but she did buy up all those houses down there, as we indicated in the show. And I don't think Max had a real explanation for that, Eric.
Well, he's saying that Chris Payne that lives near you
is
not the son. That's what.
And I don't know who's living across the street who killed the electric car. I mean, a guy named Chris Payne who looks like her, who he wouldn't tell us where he was or what he did. Remember, Eric?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He wouldn't tell us any more other than that is not Chris Payne across the street.
Not on him. He did tell me about the sister in a side conversation.
The sister, what was that about?
That she was like Wiccan.
Oh my God, this is getting weirder.
Yeah. I don't want to go deep into it. That'll be Max Gold's next chat. Max Good's
next show is Wiccan World.
Right, talking about the sister. Yeah, he told me.
I heard that. I heard that she might have been into Satan or witchcraft years ago.
Yeah, and it was very weird. But apparently, and I think he was comfortable talking about her because she was like on
a show or something?
Yeah, community access television doing witchcraft stuff.
Right, but not Chris Payne.
Right. So he's like, Chris Payne is super private. I'm not talking about him. Max Good is pretty good about these very...
I really have to push back on this because the Chris Payne who made the movie talked about his family going all the way back in American history. The one who made Who Killed the Electric Car.
Yeah.
He talked about his own bio of his family going back in American history. Of being in dude, it's rather confusing. I'm gonna have to go back in and look at Chris Payne, the director.
All right.
Yeah, that's weird.
The same basic question. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dad was a homicide detective and my mom a doctor.
I know there's a joke there somewhere, but there's some sort of.
It might be a reference from earlier, and sometimes time slips and I just lose it.
Right.
I believe Trump and Nixon were friends. There's a picture of them with John Connolly taken in New York after Nixon moved there.
Okay, Roger Stone brought him to Nixon for a education session way before he ran for president. One of the times where he was thinking about it, Stone brought Trump in New York to see Nixon, and they were supposed to meet for an hour, according to Stone, and it ended up being like 5 hours where Nixon told him everything about how to run for president and what to do as president, from what Roger Stone says.
All right. Well, fair enough. Francine Kaufman. Oh.
It's like a wonton. Yeah, it is like a wonton. I mean, some people call it Yiddish ravioli. I just call it kreplach. I mean, it is what it is, but the show is really entertaining from beginning to end. Right. I wish I had some kreplach now, Kaufman. Get to work. Chop, chop.
Ralph Peterson. Steve McQueen.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about Steve McQueen. Thanks, Ralph. That's right. Look, whatever you got, don't go to Mexico. I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. I mean, we can be
suspect, but a lot of times they do have these things figured out. Go ahead and take some treatment. It's not a question of
figuring it out. Why would I go to a third world country completely backwards, saying, by the way, I have a very complicated medical situation. Would you mind just trying anything? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I agree. So let me see. Rusty Gus, something for your remarks on locals. Miss D is sad that we're not doing Lennon, but understandable. So okay. Good.
Does that make any sense? I'm just
yeah, that was understandable. That's fine. Rusty Gus sent a $10 tip, some more dough so you can buy a bigger coffee cup. He has the big coffee cup. No. You have the real coffee cup.
That one's weighs 30 pounds. I can't. That's got fruit in it now.
There's some guy named Sophia Agape sent some guy named Vocab Malone who knows all about the BHIs, Black Hebrew. Right. Israelites.
Right.
Ms. D sent tip ivermectin stuff. Schmectin, can't say that word. You caught me.
Got you.
Anyway, well, noted. Okay. We'll read your local thing later. I am not going to play with that.
There was a character in Superman comics whose name was all vowels, and he was kind of an imp. And he would cause Superman all kinds of problems when he showed up, all kinds of impish problems. He's kind of like the first punk rock character in Superman DC comic books. And the way to get rid of him was to get him to say his own name. And his name was unpronounceable. We used to call him Mr. McLixick Man or something, where we try to pronounce his name. But it would have been more relevant today with all the name banning on YouTube, because the trick in the comic book was to get him to say it, and then he went poof and disappeared.
Okay. Kind of like Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, I think that's where they got it from.
Okay. Fleet Lord Atvar. Mark Barnes made a comment. Trump has about $1 billion deal with Truth Social or something like that.
Right.
It was on his Bourbon with Barnes this week.
No, I know. I know. Robert's talked about that, but look, contracts are breakable and alterable, and he could be a millisecond after. In other words, it's just my idea. A millisecond after he tweets on Truth Social, the tweet goes to Twitter. I mean, there's ways to skin this cat.
Or he could just literally write what he wants on Truth Social, copy the link, go to Twitter and say, and
there's ways around it. There's ways, and I'm sure he's looking at those ways right now as he sees his Twitter account approaching 100 million Americans. I mean, for the love of God, I mean, he's just not going to ignore that. That's crazy.
I don't know. He's pretty boomer. It could literally just be a boomer issue of.
He has to have some younger people around him who are sub boomers, you know. Hunley, you just got to reach out to him.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll. He's like Biden at the White House, waiting for the Kennedy calls.
Look, if he had David with him, he'd be streaming all day long. It would be great. Fishing with Trump, going to Chuck E. Cheese with Trump. David could have his stick out and show Trump how to do it. He'd have 190 million followers if he went with David.
All right. Ralph Peters, nothing intended for medical advice, just a nosh for Fun Facts Friday.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure
Agape, yeah, it's Agape, like the Agape Church here in LA. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't believe it. It looks like I made it through these.
You did all the questions?
Yeah, and folks, I mean, comment below, especially if you're watching this later. How do you like this? Do you like our doing this on Fridays? Because I think it's good to spend time just talking to you and just hanging out, having a good time, and a way to help give Mark more prep time, me more prep time, and everything else. This is our time to hang out and give back, and most importantly, talk about dogs. Because somebody posted a picture on Twitter, and it wasn't Oswald. They were falling short.
Look, my friend is over my shoulder. If you look, sitting, he was watching the Lions game before, and then I don't know, he got into some substance abuse, but now he's completely knocked out back there. So keep your voice down.
There you go. And as you can see, that we have ball caps in the merch store. We have everything from tie-dye to normal T-shirts to polos, which I normally wear. And Mark definitely can always use PayPal. I can use PayPal too. I will never turn away.
To get this book by Paul Gregory, whatever that book is.
Yeah, no kidding. Most importantly, go to our locals, and we have more material going there. Like I said, the first thing will be Matt's Tippett information. I think I'll definitely have that out within the next couple days. I was thinking about tonight, but it'll probably be tomorrow or the next day.
Right. What's tomorrow? Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a grill stream that I do on Locals every Saturday.
Well, he's going to be making grilled kreplach this weekend.
Yeah, or well, I really just sit there and talk at the camera for a while and just hang out.
You do? Okay.
That's what I do, and then I usually, when I'm done, and I get a text on the side from the wife saying I'm hungry. I'm like, okay, well, it's really good talking to you, everybody, but the wife just called, and I better get going on the actual grill now. And you know, I do like surviving, and it's usually wise to do that. So, everybody, I hope to see you in Locals. It's growing like crazy. We crossed 8,000 people, Mark, who are following us on Locals.
That's crazy, Eric.
It is. It's amazing.
What the hell's going on over there?
Really good stuff. And by the way, there's some people on there now that are throwing down. There's a guy, Star Gladiator, who, good.
Oh, that guy's pretty good. I like that guy.
Yeah, there's throwing out a lot of knowledge on JFK. And I love seeing people are starting to participate more and more with each other, because we really can't do it all the time. And that's why I wanted Locals even before Mark came here or anything else, is because it's a community and we're part of the community. It's not just a top-down trickle thing where we put out, here's a post and everybody looks at it. You guys get to participate. You guys get to share, and it means everything to us. So hope to see you on Locals and next Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, Garfield.
Garfield.
Yeah, this will be good. Yeah.
So see you then.